Hello Facebook ads people, I'm Konstantinos, and today we're going to talk about ABO and how you should optimize your campaigns when you're using ABO budget. So the channel is becoming bigger and bigger, and I have the podcast that I answer a lot of questions, but there are also a lot of times that I realize that there are some gaps and things that I haven't said into my public videos. And they're all only being said into the paid course. One of these things is the ABO. The reason is simple, is because I don't like it and I don't use it. I think that CBO and Advanced Plus campaigns are much more effective and you can scale more. But still, maybe there are some of you that you're working with ABO, so we need to discuss a little bit about the fundamentals. It's not that I don't have experience with them, I just don't prefer them. But if in another account ABO is working, I'm going to use it and I will share with you my experience on how I do it. I don't have accounts to show you, but the theory it's pretty simple. I'm going to explain to you some things about it and we will take it from there. I hope that it's going to help you. The reason that I'm uploading this in August is because I don't think that it's one of the main things that we should have in the channel, but still I wanted to be here so that people that they do ABO, maybe they can have some ideas about how they are going to do it better. So ABO is ad set budget optimization. It means that instead of using CBO campaigns and having your campaign budget as a whole in the campaign level and then having ad sets inside, you are doing ABO, which means that you have different budgets for each one of the ad sets. What does this mean? This means that each ad set has to be treated differently in terms of what kind of metrics you're watching or what kind of results you're having, and they have completely different ways of scaling. So let's go a little bit deeper and analyze that. First of all, ABO has been used a lot. We didn't have since the beginning the CBO campaigns, they came later. So everybody was using ABO in order to run ads, including myself back in the days. So when you're using ABO, what you're doing is that you're having a budget in an ad set and you're trying to see if it's working or not, and you try to scale it more. Of course, we have the hot pockets and all of that we explained from CBO campaigns and stuff. And there's some basic theory that I need to explain here in order to explain to you how you can scale them and how you should treat them. First of all, we know that the ad sets, they do this, the bell, which is one of the basic things that we know about the ads, that the more that you scale them, there's going to be just a soft spot that you're going to reach there, and you cannot scale more, because if you scale more, you're going to start losing on ROAS. That means that you're putting so much money in a daily level in an ad set that it's not able to keep up and bring you the sales that you want in the ROAS that you want or the cost per acquisition that you want. That means that you need to scale ad sets up to a point that you're not going to start losing ROAS, and this is the reason that I don't like ABO, because eventually you're going to do one mistake and you're going to lose your whole campaign. Now, you're not losing all of the campaigns immediately or the ad sets, because you can go there and you can lower the budget and you can try to find again the soft spot. But I can tell you that when this is happening and you have done a mistake and you scale too much, then only 20% of these campaigns are going to survive if you're going to lower your budget and you try to stabilize them. Because of the bell curve and what we have over there in an ad set, that means that also the starting point is very important, because it's completely different of starting an ad set from $20 and completely different of starting an ad set with $200. This is why CBO campaign is also better, because when you're starting an ad set from $20, you're not going to be able to scale it a lot, because you will have to scale. We're going to talk about the 20% rule soon in this video, so that I can explain why you cannot scale it more. But when you start from a smaller point, you cannot actually scale it as much as you want. But if you start with a CBO and the CBO decides from the $500, for example, to spend $200 in one ad set, then immediately this ad set starts from a higher point, and it's much more better when you have an ad set with $200 spending instead of $20. The other theory says that you can put a lot of ABO campaigns, and instead of having just one ad set with $200, you can have 10 that they just have 20. But let me tell you that most of the times, a lot of those are going to fail, and eventually you're not going to make any money because you're going to lose a lot. Okay, you're going to have one or two winners, but when you're going to try to scale them, eventually you're going to do a mistake and you're going to be left with nothing. So let's continue a little bit with theory about how you can scale actually the different ad sets. The theory is always the same. We say that we cannot scale every day more than 20%. This is what Facebook says, that if you scale more than 20%, and I have seen it also, I can tell you that this is true. If you do more than 20 and you have passed the learning phase, then you're going to go back to the learning phase again. So we're always scaling every day 20% and not more than that. And you need to keep in your mind that you should scale also your ad account as 20% per day in your total budget and not go more than that. That means with new campaigns also. For example, if you have $1,000 worth of ads over there and ad sets that they spend in ABO, and you do another campaign for $1,000, for example, that's a big bump in the ad account that is problematic. So you need to do $200 of new campaigns, for example, or you need to scale the ones that you have to $1,200. The truth is that the 20% is a little bit limiting when you are starting, for example, with $20 guys in an ABO ad set, which is super typical. Then you're not having the option of what are you going to do? Are you going to scale with $4? Most of the times what people do in order to recover that is that they have an ad set, they started with $20. When they see some success, they go immediately and they duplicate it, they run it with 100. When they see some success there, they run it maybe with 500 and they try to see if this ad set is going to be able to spend with 500. Still, I consider it a little bit risky because at the end of the day, we do the same thing with Crazy Method, and Crazy Method decides which ad set is going to have the best results so that it can spend more there. It's like you're playing a little bit of gamble over there because you don't know if you're going to be lucky enough. Okay, maybe if you have a very good pixel, you're going to be okay. But if you have an untrained pixel, these kind of things, they might end up being super painful for your ad account because it means that you are just duplicating, starting another one, and maybe it's not going to be fortunate enough. This is what we are doing with the Crazy Method. We are just eliminating this possibility and we're just putting all of the assets in a CBO so that we can have better chances in a daily level of one of the assets that we put there, it's going to work. What did we learn so far? That ABO, it means that we spend budget in an ad set separately. Second thing is that we learned that we can scale these ad sets by 20% every day if they're working well. Third thing that we have learned is that it's not okay to start with 20 and then starting scaling it a little bit. You can just go and you can duplicate the next one to 100, the next one to 500, and then start using the 20% rule. What I like to do, to be honest with you, and it's working in several accounts, is to start with 500. Go, of course, with things that they have worked in the past, okay? Start with 500. The moment that it goes well, increase it immediately to 1,000. If it goes well, increase it to 2,000, and if it's going to work there, so after 2 days, this is helping me to go super fast to the point of spending 2,000 over there. When you do that, then you start increasing by 20% because then 20% on 2,000 is $400. It's not a small amount of money. You can do the same thing with a smaller scale, depending on your budget, but I can tell you that this way has been proven the best way for me in terms of ABO, because you're not going to wait for 20%. Eventually you're going to have a bad day on Facebook. Eventually something is going to happen. Anyway, it doesn't matter. This way I think it's more efficient because you go super fast. You can do it, for example, in your case with 200, then 400 the next day, and then the next day make it 800, for example, in order to see if you're going to be able to maintain it with $800 per day. And after that, use the 20% rule. Or do it with smaller budgets. You can just do the calculation with the example that I gave. So if you do 100, 200, the double, and after that, the double of the double. So it's going to be 400. When you reach the point that you have a big spender campaign with ABO working, then you can go with 20%. And even if you lose it, then you can start all of the process all over again, but it's not going to take you 20 days to reach to the point that you're going to spend a lot of money, but it's just going to take you 2 days, and then after that you start with your 20% raise. And last thing, don't forget that if something is working, it doesn't mean that you have to go immediately and you have to close it and start all over again. Maybe you have to draw the budget a little bit down by decreasing by 20%. Very important note over here. Don't expect it to work immediately. Give it 1 or 2 days as soon as you decrease the budget, because it's going to be in shock or whatever we may call that. And it's not going to work immediately, but maybe after 1 or 2 days it's going to actually recover. Last thing before we go. And I think that we covered everything. We covered the 20%, we covered the bell curve, we covered the way that you can actually manage them with a very fast way that I have found that's efficient for me. And we found a way that if it doesn't work, you can actually recover. In some of them, most of the times 80% is going to be lost, 20 is going to be left. The last thing that we need to discuss about this is the attribution. So what should you be watching? Because this is an ABO, but maybe you're using 1 day or 7 days click attribution. When you are starting and you're testing in your ABO campaigns what is working and what doesn't, I should encourage you to use the 7 days click, 1 day view. But after some point, if you start getting good results with the bigger budgets and what I explained earlier, you should go to 1 day attribution. 1 day attribution is going to work better with your ABO campaign instead of having 7 days, because what you're doing is you are increasing daily the budget by 20% when you're doing it, but you are doing it by watching the results of the previous day. You're not going to consider 7 days results in order to see if you're going to scale by 20%. By the way, if you want, you can stay in a specific budget. If you want, you can increase 20% every 2-3 days. It's up to you how you're going to do it. But when I do it aggressively, and then I start all over again and all over again. This is the theory, in my opinion, about ABO. There's no stability in ABO in that level because you don't have several assets to support the losses of another asset and so on. But still, I have seen it working, and I can tell you that when you do that, you scale, then it takes you down. Some of those are going to survive, others they are going to start all over again, and you will do this aggressive strategy of 2 days and so on. The thing here is that I want to point out that in the bigger budgets, and when you're able to overcome the 50 events and go out of the learning phase, I think that you should go with 1 day attribution setting. In other ones, you may go with 7 days. If we talk about $20 or $100 per ad set, it doesn't matter in my opinion. But if you're an aggressive scaler like me, you can go to 1 day. Also, you need to evaluate if you're going to scale or not based on the previous day. Sadly, you cannot watch the results of the last 7 days like the way that we do with CBO campaigns or Advanced Plus. I think, and it's my personal opinion, that when you are scaling ABO campaigns, you need to just watch the previous day. If it's profitable, you scale more. The last thing that I need to point out about ABO is that for me, it's not, maybe it's going to work with you with manual bidding or other ways, but if you want to scale an account really and have it more stable for a longer period instead of just doing this again and again, some people, they might like it because it's exciting and it's like they're gambling every day or they're playing with a lot of money. But still, if you want to have another account which is going to be stable and stay for a longer period, CBO campaigns and Advanced Plus campaigns are I'm mentioning Advanced Plus because Advanced Plus is also ABO, but we consider it another complete different campaign. These are the campaigns that you need to watch and you need to be able to have for a long period so that you can have more stable accounts for a longer period instead of doing this again and again and again with ABO. And this is the reason that I also like to do CBO campaigns. But the reason that I'm showing you this video is because I believe that doesn't mean that if CBO is working for me, it's going to work for you. So I need to diversify a little bit my content in order to show different things of my experience by working with ad accounts. And maybe CBO or Advanced Plus is not working with you and you want to work for any specific reason with ABO campaigns. And this is the way that you should do it if you're going to work with that. After all, this is what we do in this channel. We show all of these different methods in order for you to use all of them, see which one is more close to your style, to your personality, which one is helping you to overcome your fears of spending a lot of money and so on, and use whatever is going to be better, make it better for your account, adapt the strategy, make it better for you and your business, and that's all. That's all I had to say about ABO optimization. Now you know how I do it when I go to accounts. You can do it with a much slower pace. You can do it more aggressively than me, maybe. But that's my experience. This is what I'm sharing with you. I hope you like the video. Don't forget that if you want to learn more about Facebook ads, you can check my book, my course, my website. And until we meet again, guys, be creative and be consistent.